All right. Okay. So I'm just gonna get started right now if you're ready.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm good to go.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so hi everybody. Thank you for being here for another Real Talk, another Instagram Live, where we're just gonna have a conversation about mental health and a bunch of different topics. Um, we encourage you all to ask any questions you want to ask. You can just put it in the comments, and we'll address it along the way. But at the same time, we're just going to have a little bit of a conversation. Before I get started, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors, TD Bank Group, for helping us so much, for supporting us with our online programming. Thank you so much. But without a further ado, I'm just going to get into it. So, hi, Alex. Thank you for being here with us.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course, yeah. So, today's topic we're going through is pretty much transitioning and how that affect and that how that relates to mental health. So, you're a speaker for YouthSpeak, and if you could just introduce yourself, give us like a little bit of background of who you are, and I'll just maybe just a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so my name is Alex. I've been with YouthSpeak now for a long time. It's been about a year and a half now. And my story kind of revolves around, I have a series of different topics, but it all bottles down to my time transitioning and becoming who I always knew I was supposed to be inside.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so on that topic, so for those people who don't know, so what is your personal definition of being trans? What does it, what, how would you personally describe it?
So for me, being trans is uh, the way I usually describe it is I was born a girl and I felt like a boy, and I went to the doctor and they gave me a medicine that made me who I'm able to be today. And that person was genuinely who I knew I was supposed to be, and who I knew I was supposed to be my whole life. So it was really just making my outside appearance match how I felt on the inside. Um, and for me, being trans, it's not just about the physical, it's also about having a community, finding like minded people, and just being a part of a vibrant community of people who are supportive and loving. Um, and also, with that, I just want to note that trans, and there are multiple kind of ways to say trans. I prefer the medical term for gender dysphoria, which is a diagnosable condition, or just trans. But there are a lot of different ways, and know which way is right or wrong, or it's all up to the person. So for me, it's all about becoming who I know I was supposed to be and having that community.
Awesome. Yeah, like I like how you put it, like becoming who you know you are inside. It's kind of like you're not changing who you are, you're just pretty much affirming who you are. If that makes,
Exactly.
yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And it's great that you've been able to find that community with people who can like act, who help you grow into the person,
Mm-hmm.
into your best version of yourself. And also like, thank you for like that, like informative, giving us that information about like the different terms, because I know that can sometimes be confusing for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
mm. And so, I guess the next question I'd have for you is like, when did you realize that you weren't exactly the gender that you were assigned at birth? Like, because for me, I know we're kind of like similar age ranges, and like when I was growing up, I didn't know anything about transgender, people being transgender. I didn't even know that was a thing. Because like really nobody was really talking about it. I don't know if you had that same experience, but like, how was that journey of like figuring that whole thing out?
So for me, I was actually raised in rural Ontario. So I was raised in a very small community, a very small town, and it wasn't really talked about. So I went through my life kind of feeling like something was wrong and feeling like I felt a little different. I remember I used to get really, really angry, and I couldn't figure out why I was getting really, really angry. And a lot of it wasn't until I hit my final year of high school where I kind of figured out what it was. And I had a very close friend, group of friends, and one of them actually turned out to be transgender and explained it to me. And that was the moment that I was like, okay, I think this might be close to how I'm feeling, and I need to go talk to someone about it. So for me, that kind of journey was later on in life. It wasn't when I was young. It was a decision that I ultimately had to make, whether I wanted to live my truth or I wanted to just keep living the way I was living. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I decided I'm going to live my truth, and I'm going to live and be who I know I am, rather than trying to be someone that I think the rest of the world wants. But it also it helped being older for me because I had that kind of ground point, and I kind of knew a little bit of who I was. I didn't know fully who I could become. Um, but yeah, ultimately, like it's just for me, it was a later age, but there are people who feel it a lot younger or a lot older. There are people who are transitioning in their 50s, 60s, 70s. There's no really right time to know or real warming signs that fit one person.
Yeah, I guess I like how you put that. It's like it's up to the person, the individual
Mm-hmm.
themselves, like, when they realize. Did you find it was like more helpful, like kind of solidifying your um I guess you, it was it helped you that you had like your identity kind of like solidified at that point in your life a little bit, like a more developed when you were going through it, or
Yeah, for the most part. I think what you're trying. Can you just give me that question right back for a sec? My
sorry.
brain, my brain just blanked on that
Yeah,
one.
yeah. No, just saying. I was just saying. Did it help that you kind of had like a more solid sense of your identity? Like you kind of like, I guess at the end of high school, people kind of like already like have developed who they are than like maybe like the beginning of high school. Did that make things easier? Did that make things like harder? Um,
For me, I think it was natural for me. I
mhm,
think if I had discovered earlier, it would have felt natural. If I had discovered later, it would have felt natural. That's why I say it's not a one size fits all thing.
mhm,
It's so diverse. For me, knowing myself definitely helped with my self confidence and going along because it can be a very tiring, emotional journey. So
mhm,
knowing myself kind of kept me aware of how I was feeling and what I was going through and when to reach out. And
mhm.
I think that ultimately helped in my transition because I knew when I kind of needed someone else to lean on too.
That's awesome. And yeah, and I don't want to I also just want to clarify that anyone watching, like, I don't want to say that, like, it's bad for people to transition early in life because, like, I know there's some people who say that. I definitely don't subscribe to that belief. But yeah, like, um, and you were talking about how you were like experiencing a lot of anger in your childhood. Do you think that kind of like stemmed a lot from just like knowing something was wrong, but like not knowing exactly like what it was, or like because you kind of talk about when you met your friend who was trans, something kind of like clicked, I'm assuming, right?
Mm-hmm. So for me, my anger, it actually got a lot better once I started getting the treatment I needed.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like it clicked and I knew what I had to do and I had an end goal in sight and I wanted to get to that end goal. And because I was so focused on that, it almost gave me a chance to step back and look at my anger and figure out where it was coming from and how to properly deal with it instead of exploding in class or exploding at my parents. So I think a lot of that was underlying because, as my dad has told me multiple times, if I was born in the wrong body, I'd be really angry too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think a lot of it had to do with that. And by no means have I done right by everyone. I've throughout this journey, and I think throughout a lot of people's journeys, sometimes we make mistakes. We're human. We hurt people along the way. But I think for me, learning to harness that anger into something positive really helped me So for me, it's hockey. I really love hockey and I've played it my
Mhm.
whole life. And the moment I was kind of like, okay, I'm transgender. I want to find something to help me deal with all this pent up energy and emotion surrounding this. And I just gravitated my whole life towards hockey. And so for me, finding something to get my anger out in a healthy way really, really helped me.
That's great. That's great. Like, and yeah, I know you. Whenever I listen to you speak, you do speak a lot about hockey, and like I can even just see it in your face that like you just have this passion for it. So I'm assuming that definitely helps with like a lot of things, like especially like mental health and that sort of thing. Kind of having that outlet.
Yeah,
Is,
massively.
mhm. All right. And so the next question, I guess, I kind of wanted to ask you, you kind of already like explained it a little bit, was like, how has being trans affected your mental health or like your mental health journey? Um,
Yeah, so for me, I explained it a little bit, but I can go more in depth into it too. It wasn't just anger that I felt. A
mhm,
lot of the feelings I have, even being trans, I get terrible anxiety, even the way I am now. I'm like, will someone know I'm trans? If I go into the men's bathroom, will someone somehow know, even though I'm in a stall? So there's a lot of anxiety that surrounds it, but
mhm,
it's a lot of societal anxiety. It's a lot of
mhm,
what will other people think, not what do I think of myself,
mhm,
which I can admit is something that I need to work on as well, because it shouldn't really matter what other people are thinking if my opinion of myself is high.
mhm.
But that plays into it a lot, is the anxiety. Oh, sorry. I think I'm back.
You cut out a
I
little
said
bit.
I was good. I was saying I think the everyday kind of mundane anxiety I've felt alongside it. I don't attribute that all to being trans. I have clinical anxiety and
Mhm.
depression. Um, so that plays into it too. So I kind of have a little bit of a tricky hand, but
Yeah,
I make the most of it, right?
yeah.
We all deal with so many difficult emotions. It doesn't matter if it's depression, anger, even happiness. Like, we all have these complex emotions. And for me, it was all about finding out who I was before I could control it and figure out
Mhm,
my path.
mhm. I like what you were saying about like the whole societal anxiety because like and I kind of do think it does matter because like once again like as a society like not everybody understands that can like you were saying how you have clinical like anxiety um
Mhm.
like I feel like that can be kind of compounded like on those other sort of aspects too with that.
Definitely.
Mhm. Yeah, like those sorts of anxieties, which is pretty awesome how you well, which yeah can definitely be a challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
hmm All right, so I believe the next question I wanted to ask you was, uh, when you were going through your transitioning, when you were coming out, how did people around you react? How did your friends react? How did your family react? Uh, yeah, like were they supportive? That sort of stuff.
Yeah, I was actually really, really lucky and blessed that like my friends didn't bat an eye. They were kind of like, okay, that's cool, like awesome. We always kind of figured because I didn't present in like a traditionally feminine kind of way. So everyone kind of had an idea that there was something a little bit different about me. So I don't think anyone was shocked. My dad walked away for a little bit, but he came back the next day and was talking about the doctors that he could talk to try and get me the proper treatment. And like my mom was unbelievably supportive. My brother was supportive. My whole family was. And I was also really lucky because if they weren't as supportive, I was lucky because I had my principal and I were really, really close. I had great teachers. I had awesome friends. So I had a lot of supports, even if I didn't want to see them at the time. So I've always been really lucky that, or blessed technically, that people have kind of stuck by my side and not batted an eye and just been like, you know what? If you're living authentically, we're happy for you.
Awesome. That's awesome. That like just to know that like your friends and family were just like, oh, same old Alex. Like,
Yeah, pretty much. It was like another day had just gone by.
that's great. That's great. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you were able to that you were able to have that. Most definitely.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was definitely helpful.
And it's good to have those supports. Like we talk a lot about like, and especially when it comes to like mental health and stuff. Like the biggest thing is like having those support systems around you, and
Hmm.
I think like just in every aspect, like those supports are very very important. No matter who you
Yeah, for sure.
are. All right, and so one thing I wanted to like kind of ask was, were there any obstacles when it came? Did you have any challenges, or were there any obstacles when it came to like transitioning or anything like that? Like,
When it come to what? Sorry.
so like, did you face any obstacles when it came to transitioning, or like, did you have any like challenges?
I've had a few. I've had a few doctors who didn't believe me, and I had to actually seek consults elsewhere
Mm-hmm.
because it was going on for years and years and years, and I was getting frustrated, and no one was believing me because it wasn't super well known or well recorded when I was diagnosed. So I was getting really, really frustrated. So that was a big obstacle. Was I felt like I wasn't being heard, and I thought that even these like even my friends sometimes were just I felt unheard. Um, but I realized that wasn't fully the doctors. That was me not wanting to think that they heard me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I'd lost my faith in like what these doctors were diagnosing me with and all this. And I met that one doctor who was like, okay, let me listen to you. Let me hear your whole story. Lay it out for me. And she believed me. And that was when I'm like, okay, so I could keep on being angry at these doctors, but I had a great doctor. Or I could go on being angry at these people who don't like me, but I have amazing friends.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really for that me. It was more the medical side of things that was a little bit tricky. My family members were great. My friends were great. Even my school. As soon as I talked to them, they changed my name on the attendance sheet. They made sure I was comfortable in the right bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for me, a lot of the obstacles were in my head, and not physical obstacles per se, but the physical obstacles were manageable. I was
Mm-hmm.
able to basically raise myself up and seek the advice from another source. And that was something that before this transition, I never would have done. And that's something that has taught me a lot too, is that I'm very strong. And if I do have concerns about something, I should talk about it.
That's awesome. Like, yeah, like I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, because when people use, I don't know, I feel like when people think about like transitioning, they kind of like think about the physical like medical part of it, but like I think that's a kind of a big misconception. It's more I'm assuming it's more like an identity thing. Like it's more like
Yeah, the way I describe it is for me, my brain feels a certain way, and I have to
mhm,
go through the medical side to feel like
mhm,
myself. That being said,
mhm,
not everyone has to go through the medical side to feel like
mhm,
themselves. You can still be trans and not want surgery whatsoever, or
mhm,
even hormone treatment. Like that's a totally possible thing too. But for me, that was a necessity. That was something
yeah,
I felt like I had to do. Um, so yeah, like it's not per se for me the way I like to describe it is my comes first, whereas my body comes second.
I like
Um, yeah, so get to know me as a person otherwise instead of just a trans person.
yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Your head comes first and your body comes second. I remember
Yeah.
that. All right, and so I think the last question I wanted to ask you was, so do you know any like resources for anybody who is either trans or like LBG, LGBT folks can access, like if they're looking for anything, ones that are kind of like related to like mental health or even just like those people in general.
I know for me, eGale Canada actually has a lot of programming around LGBT and a lot of online resources. Um, the 519 is based in Toronto, but it also has a lot of online resources and um, a lot of common people who are trying to figure stuff out. And also, Kids Help Phone is really, really, really good for LGBTQ plus. Um, and I remember someone told me that, and I was like, yeah, they're probably good, like they're trained, but from what I've heard, they're very, very, very empathetic and good. So I wouldn't hesitate to text or call Kids Help Phone because from what I've heard, they're fantastic.
Awesome. Those are some great resources. I think someone also wrote down in
Oh yeah,
comments.
Ontario Shores as well. It's a facility in the GTA, which is also very, very good with LGBTQ plus.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. I'll also write some of those down for myself. Like those are really good resources. I also forgot to shout out Kids Help Phone. It's in the comments here for like anybody who needs help or anything like that. Um, us at YouthSpeak would definitely support them. All right. And so, was there anything else you wanted to speak on, Alex?
I
Before.
just want to say, like, if anyone knows anyone or is struggling, never be afraid to reach out. Even if the reaction isn't what you wanted, there are tons of other people who are willing to listen and be a shoulder for you to cry on and who want to be there for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. Like always reaching out. So yeah, we're just gonna wrap up really quickly. Thank you so much, Alex, for being on here. And thank you for giving us all that wonderful information. Before we do that, I just want to shout out TD Bank Group once more. So once again, giving them a thank you once again. And just want to let everybody know that we're here on Mondays and we're here on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. With, Instagram Live all the time. So if you enjoyed this one, make sure to tune into the next one. The next one's going to be Monday. And I hope to see you all then. Thank you.